it's Chrissy again, and I'm here today with my first ever Top 5 Wednesday, and it is the top 5 genres. Now I'm going to list my top 5 genres, and I'm also going to give you an example of them. So let's get started. Number 5 on my list is historical fiction. I actually went through a huge historical fiction phase. I still really like it, but I did kind of burn myself out on it a little bit because it was a lot. And for an example, I have The Other Boleyn Girl by Phillipa Gregory. And I have probably, I'm pretty sure, I have every single Phillipa Gregory book on the Tudor Dynasty. I'm kind of obsessed with the Tudor Dynasty, and I love Phillipa Gregory. But The Other Boleyn Girl is basically about Queen Elizabeth I's mother, Anne Boleyn, and her sister, Mary Bolyn, and their escapades with Queen Elizabeth's father, King Henry VIII. Queen Elizabeth isn't in the book really, except for in baby form, but it's a really, really great book. Highly recommend it. It was also turned into a movie not too long ago. Also a really good movie. Recommend that too. It doesn't go exactly with the book, but actually pretty close. For my number 2 genre, it's kind of my guilty pleasure, and that is new adult romance. I am technically in the new adult age, the 18 to 25. So when I read contemporary romances, I like them to be a little bit more mature, and so that's why I focus on new adult romance. And for that example, I have The Coincidence of Callie and Kayden. It's a really, really good book. It was a New York Times bestseller. I really recommend it. I actually really like the author, Jessica Sorensen. Recommend any of her books. All of her books do tend to follow the same pattern, but they're different enough that they're all really good. This one, you have Callie and Kayden, who both knew each other in high school, or knew of each other in high school. They went to the same high school, and they had one significant run-in with each other in high school, but they didn't really talk because she was kind of the freak, he was the football star. But then they go to college, and they meet again there, and they kind of have a spark, and so on. But they both have really, really big and dark secrets that come into play in their relationship, and it's really good. I really recommend it. Read it. However, I will recommend, if you get this book, get the next one. I don't know the name of it off the top of my head. Get the second book in the series before you start this one, because it kind of ends in a way that you have to have the second book. But read it. It is good. Now, my third top genre is really new to me, and that is sci-fi, science fiction. Last year, I would have never considered science fiction in my top 5 genres. I would have never considered it as a genre that I had any interest in. But then I read one book. Actually, The Host was the first one. After I watched the movie, I liked the movie. I know that a lot of people who have read The Host hated the movie, and after reading The Host, I'm glad I watched the movie first, because I would have hated the movie had I read the book first. But I watched the movie, liked the movie, so I read the book, loved it, and then realized, maybe sci-fi isn't that bad, because then I read another one, and I fell in love with that one, and another one. So science fiction is now third on my list. The book I have as an example for sci-fi is Alienated by Melissa Landers. And I believe this book is fairly new, and honestly, I love this book's cover. I don't know what it is. It captivates me. I can't stop staring at it. Love this cover. Basically, in this book, the aliens, I can't pronounce the planet, so I'm not going to try. The aliens are basically just more advanced human, more evolved human beings, and they made contact with Earth about 3 years ago. And now they're having the first of the aliens kind of do an exchange student program, and they're staying on Earth with a human host, a human sponsor. And it's a really good book. Really, really good book. It has some really complicated themes. Now, of course, the aliens have alternative motives, and then the alien exchange student has his own alternative motives, which makes the book interesting, of course. But the book has some really interesting, heavier themes like prejudice and all that, but honestly, one of the things I loved about it was that it addressed all of those things, but still managed to somehow feel light. And there is romance in it, if you couldn't. It's not hard to guess. For my second favorite genre, I have fantasy. And I'm kind of taking advantage of this category by making it very, very broad, because I pretty much like the whole spectrum of fantasy. I generally read things more along the lines of the archived. I've talked about this book quite a bit. Read it, it's good. But the archived is more urban fantasy, paranormal. Half of it takes place in the real world, contemporary world, and it has a fantasy element. It has a fantasy secret, you have a girl with special abilities. That's generally the fantasy I like. But I did recently realize that I actually kind of like high fantasy as well, like in the Throne of Glass, which I'm still reading, and it's really, really good. And I have this new urge to read tons and tons of high fantasy books. So we'll see if this trend continues, but my second favorite genre is fantasy, spanning the whole spectrum of fantasy. Now, my number one top favorite genre is dystopian. And now, I was going to show you the Hunger Games for my example of dystopian, but everyone knows the Hunger Games. So instead, I decided to show you the book. It's one of my favorite books that I think everyone in the world should read. And that is Unwind by Neal Shusterman. Go read it. Go read it now. This is the book that I champion. I think everyone in the world should read this book. Basically, brief synopsis, as brief as I can make it because I can talk for hours on this book. It is basically in a future where we've had a second civil war between the pro-life, pro-choice armies. I want to make the disclaimer that I am making no political affiliations by recommending this book. Anyways, civil war between the pro-life and pro-choice armies, and to resolve that conflict they signed what is called the Bill of Life, which basically says that a child cannot be touched from the age of conception to the age of 13. But from the time they are 13 to 18, the parent or guardian of the child can choose to have the child unwound, which basically means they've advanced medicine far enough that they have mastered ways to donate every single part of a person's body, from every brain cell to every limb. And so that's basically what unwinding is. They kind of take the child apart and use their parts as transplants. So basically, it accomplishes two goals. Everyone gets a chance at life, and technically their bodies are still alive. No one's dead. It's crazy, but it makes some crazy logical, not moral or not very gross sense, but it makes lots of logical sense. Anyway, not arguing for unwinding. I am against unwinding. Go read this book. It's really good. It follows 3 children who are supposed to be unwound. It's really, really good. If you just want an action-packed dystopian, Unwind is for you. And if you want a book that makes you think and makes you ponder ideas and just makes you think, then Unwind is for you. Go read Unwind. Just go do it. Go do it now. And those are my top 5 favorite genres. But I do want to make one point, and that is that the genres get even better when you mix them. Like with The Host, which I would like to say is both dystopian, new adult romance, and sci-fi. It's even better when you mix the genres. But those are my favorite genres separated. Alright, well, thank y'all for watching. Please subscribe, and please let me know if you want to hear any more about any of these books in the comments. Bye!